there are a number of cues in your conversation about the move to online, the importance of logistics and capabilities. And so I can't think of a better next guest. It's almost as if someone planned this than John Robertson, who's the founder and CEO of AO. John, welcome. And I think, John, if you unmute, then that'll be perfect. Hello, I think I can.
Hi, yeah, thanks, Ian.
Hi,
thanks
John.
for having me.
No, not at all. It's our pleasure entirely. Now, I think most people have come across you as consumers, either landing on your website or thinking about you as one of the vans past. However, just give everyone a quick thumbnail of 20 years ago today to now, the quick story of AO.
Crikey. Well, so 20 years ago, Christmas Eve, 1999, £1 bet with a pal in the pub bet me that I wouldn't stop doing what I was doing and start an e-commerce business. We faffed about for a bit, decided to do that, called it Appliances Online. That's got proof of concept, 3 of us in an office, started with 100 grand. And we grew that business into what we then became known as white labeling. But we called it Rent-A-Brand to start with. We provided a white label operation pretty much for most of the high street that wasn't in white goods. So the likes of Sainsbury's, Boots, Next, B&Q, Marks and Spencer's, Debenhams, House of Fraser, a good number of them not with us anymore, these brands, but competing against a lot of other brands that are still not with us, like Powerhouse and Comet. Curry's still with us. And John Lewis, and sort of found a niche role as a specialist in the middle. Then in 2008, I think it was, Sainsbury's decided they wanted to leave. They were currently, at the time, 40% of our business. And they went to move their business to Comet, which turned out to be a wonderful move for them. And that forced us to then refocus back onto our own brand of Appliances Online, which we then rebranded in 2013, I think it was, into AO.com. And which unfortunately we don't know. It's quite an amusing story how all that came about. But it was actually a guy called Tony the Fridge who was running the Great North Run in the Northeast for 30 days with a fridge on his back, and he was on the Chris Evans breakfast show. Was the origins of how our brand name changed, because we sponsored him and he was on the front row of the Great North Run, and I knew we'd sponsored him, and he was stood next to Mo Farah and he had a fridge on his back, and even I couldn't see our brand on his t-shirt. So that was how we went from Appliances Online to AO.com. We then floated the business in 2014 for just over £1 billion to give us some funds to then move out of kitchen appliances into a broader electricals category. So we sell tellies and computers and pretty much anything with a plug on it now, all the way through to lawnmowers, and internationalise the business. So we've got quite a significant business now in Germany as well. And which has been an interesting and an educational journey, and so that's where we are in terms of total scale as a business. Now we have about $1 billion, just over $1 billion of total group sales. We have about 5,000 people in the business. We are vertically integrated. We run about 500 vans a day out on the road. We own all our own logistics. Interesting, just listening to your logistics conversation. I've just come from our logistics board meeting. So fresh with all those challenges in there. We have about 1 million square feet of warehousing full of physical stock, and we transship centrally over a network of about 30 outbases every night. We offer same day, next day, full installation services. Next day, put a TV on your wall, install a gas cooker, install an American fridge freezer, whatever it might be. And
but not carried on your back.
Not on my back, no. Although sometimes it does feel that way sometimes. We also have a trade business. So we have quite a significant business now dealing with SMEs, kitchen shops, and we deal with all major house builders now. So we're bringing disruption into that sector. We also have our own recycling business. So we recycle about 25% of all the fridges that come back in the UK. We also then, as an output of that, have our own plastics plant, and we hope that next year we will have full cycle economy appliances, where we will make
Wow.
appliances out of the appliances that we bring back as a unique selling point for us. And because we control our fleet, we hope to be the first two-man distribution business to have a national electric fleet. So we're doing quite a bit of work in that space as well. So we're a lot more than a web shop. It's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, I think there are a couple of things there, because I think anybody can stick up a website that makes false or impossible promises, whereas we all know that commerce is 99% doing things repeatedly at scale at profit. So I think you exemplify that. In some ways, though, you are the opposite of the modern story of digitally native vertical brands, the DNVBs, who go, hello, look at us, we're on social media, and then they scrabble to get all the back end and capability in place. You've come from being, if you like, behind other people's brands and then emerged into your own brand. So what is the swap like? You know your capabilities, you know you operate at scale, you're totally a real business, but all of a sudden, instead of pretending to be House of Fraser or being nice to someone who's a Debenhams customer, it's your name above the door or on the guy next to Mo Farah's back. What is that change of being totally consumer-facing rather than client or channel-facing?
So the simple answer to that, Ian, is we've always been everything. So we've always run our own brand. And we have one standard of service, which is excellence. So in our distribution network, we do third-party deliveries for other companies as well on big stuff like Aldi and Costco and people like that. We do deliveries for competitors in our space as well, so we're not precious about that. And we can't differentiate our service. So it's not as though we could say, right, well, we're going to take some business on to deliver something for, I don't know, John Lewis, let's say, but give a mandate out to our drivers to say, oh, just give them an average service. So we cost in the very best service, but we have a deep philosophical belief that the best service is actually the most profitable service. So it's a crude terminology internally, but shit is an expensive commodity to shovel. So if you don't produce it in the first place, if you don't create the problems, then you don't have to have call centers to deal with those problems. If you deliver on time, the customer won't chase you. If you communicate brilliantly with a customer through text and tracking and tracing, then you can deal with them in a much more scalable, automated way. So it has always been the case that we've only ever had one standard of service, and we never differentiate. It's more the balance and the mix. And so we still now do third-party stuff. We still operate Boots' website for them. I think we still do some stuff for Next, and we do B2B stuff as well. So when the driver turns up, he's an AO driver in a green van, and he treats every single customer as if they were his gran. Simple as that.
Now, I regret that this is being recorded, because otherwise I could have just pinched that phrase that we only have one standard is excellence. I really feel like saying that, but sadly the tape would prove me wrong. You've also said, I believe, one of the other things that I like to pretend was my quote, which was that the industry has changed more in 5 weeks than it would have done in 5 years, or 10 years in 10 weeks. Pick your weeks and years, but we've had a massive change. So you were already cracking on at scale, excellent, etc. What has catapulted inside AO? What has been a big change? You think, my God, even we wouldn't have done that had it not been for this change?
Not a lot is the simple answer. Very much more of the same. We're a business that's built for the future, and not trying to repurpose from a business from the past. And we're quite brutal on our own disruption internally and our own innovations. So it's very much more of the same, harder and faster. So how do we put lots of extra logistics capability in? Well, we know how to do that. We do that through the difference between the low of February trading and the high of Black Friday. So we know how to do that. In terms of serving customers, this is a time to have a deeply invested culture in a business, not a time to build one. I say we're fortunate. I don't think we're fortunate. We invested in that over 20 years. It pays back in times like this. So, we're able to just trust all our people. We moved 2,000 people to work from home in 3 days. I've never seen as many laptops. We didn't have to stick stickers on them. We didn't have to do all the things and controls that lots of other business did. We just said to our guys, look, we got to go and work from home. There's loads of things we're going to have to work out as we go. Let's go and have some fun doing it. And everybody rises to the challenge. So nobody came and said, well, what am I going to get paid for this? Or, well, what does that mean for me on this? It was how do we come together? Our first priority is to keep customers safe and our staff safe and to serve those customers. And so that's just in the core of our DNA of, we have two measures. One is treat every single customer as if they were your gran. Everybody knows what that means. It's really simple. And then when you're making decisions, we give huge autonomy to spend company money in whatever that means. And so when they're doing that, they have one metric to measure that against is if you're having dinner with your mum tonight and you explain to your mum the decisions that you made, would your decision make your mum proud? And everybody's mum's got a slightly different barometer. But broadly inside, we all know what that means. And if you're going to tell her something, whether, how she's going to look at you. So think about that when you're making the decision. And if people genuinely, deeply live those two principles, loads of other stuff just takes care of itself. Yeah. And so in these real moments when things happen, we have a sort of immune system as a business that deals with things. And actually, from a personal point of view, it's always brilliant because the best thing I can do is get out of the way and just leave people to get on with things. The last thing they want is interference. And so freedom and autonomy works in that. But I agree, 5 years has collapsed down into 5 weeks. 66 days to form a habit. Stores have been locked down for 84. I think there's going to be huge complication. Leicester is just going to be the first. I think the challenges of turning different services on and off in different regions week by week with different, even whether you do deliver and then do you deliver with services and when do you turn those on and when do you turn those off and what capabilities. Again, what you need is tons of flexibility. For the first 2 or 3 weeks, we didn't offer services unless if it was Mrs. Miggins on the 14th floor of a block of flats and she's 83 and she's got a fridge freezer and she keeps her insulin in it, well, a doorstep delivery is not much good for her. So we need our drivers to exercise judgment that the right thing in that situation is to get that fridge freezer up and plugged in and get the old one out. You can't put that on an order form online. No. You just have to trust people's judgment.
Well, that's the judgment we need, not taking a driving eye test to Barnard Castle. So I think you're showing so many things that we need to think about there, John. We've covered culture, which has been embedded, the supply chain fully integrated, sustainability, the full cycle. You've done it all, and with many, many things that we're all going to be writing on our notebooks and pretending that we said ourselves. John, sadly, our time is up, but just a massive thank you from me and from all of the team for taking a chunk of time out to join us today. John, thanks.
No problem, pleasure.